This year was our first season growing red onions, and I will definitely be growing more. But with the fluctuations of the weather, we had to go ahead and pull them, and I want to share with you a quick and easy way to make refrigerated pickled onions. So let's get started. Hi everyone. So we had a really good harvest of our red onions this year, and what I did was I pulled them and I put them under our covered patio and let them dry for a few weeks, and we definitely had enough for storing. I've been using some, but today I want to share with you how to make some quick and easy refrigerator red pickled onions. So let's go ahead and I'll go over what we're using today for this recipe. So I'll start off with the jar that I'm using. You want to use a glass jar because we're using vinegar in this recipe, and you don't want like a metallic reaction. The vinegar reacts to metal and it'll probably give it an off taste that will not be good. So you want a glass jar, and I have one that seals. And then we have our measuring cup. Now there are so many recipes online for pickled red onions. So like I tell everybody, you have to do what's best for you and your family and what tastes good to you. So a lot of people don't like the harshness of like the straight white vinegar. Some people use apple cider vinegar, but today I'm going to use some red wine vinegar along with some white vinegar also. Of course, you'll need some red onions, and just depending on the type of jar that you're going to put it in, you know, that will kind of determine how much red onions that you'll need. I have some fresh garlic that I actually just went outside and pulled up, and I need to pull the rest of it up. And then I'm going to put some peppercorns in there. Now the garlic, what I'm going to do is slice it and incorporate into my red onion liquid that we're going to boil on the stove, so that it can impart some of that nice garlic flavor. And then we'll also put some of those peppercorns in our jar. So right here, you'll need to slice your onions thinly. I have a mandolin here. Again, I'm not sponsored or anything, but this is like a Pampered Chef mandolin that I've had for years. And I'm just going to slice them thinly over the bowl, and so that way the red onions, when I slice them thin, they can impart some of that vinegar taste. Now let me just share with you really quick, depending on whether you want your red onions crunchy or if you want them kind of soft. If you want them soft, then once your liquid has boiled that we're going to do on the stove, you put the red onions in there and you let it simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes. Now if you want your onions a little bit crunchy, then you just slice the onions and then you put them in your jar, and you're going to pour the hot liquid over the onions and seal it. So let me go ahead and get the onion sliced, and then we'll go ahead and talk about our liquid that we're using for the onions. Okay, so I had to use a little bit of muscle power, but I wanted to show you what we got here, how thin the onions are sliced. And so now we're going to go ahead and prepare our liquid. And I may have sliced up too much, but that's okay, because I can always use these in a salad. But I like using the mandolin because it's nice and uniform. And I know that I will not be able to achieve this using a knife, not me. So let's go ahead and we'll get our liquid prepared. Okay, so we got our pot here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do half and half. So I'm going to put 1 cup of the white vinegar in here, and I'm also going to do 1 cup of the red wine vinegar. And what we want to do is we want to get it up to a boil, and we want to let it simmer for a few minutes. Once it kind of gets up to a boil, then we'll let's see, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my peppercorn and my garlic in here as it's coming up to a boil, so the flavors can go ahead and start getting into the liquid. I may not need 2 cups because the container that I'm using is actually a 2-cup container. So we'll see, and that's why I say, y'all, I just You just have to do what works for you. So we're using a cup of red wine vinegar and a cup of white vinegar. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my few peppercorns in here because the liquid is heating up. I also forgot to mention salt, so I'll put a little bit of salt in here. Now, some people add sugar to their red wine vinegar or to the liquid, but we're not adding sugar today. I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt. And then I'm gonna take my garlic slicer that I got from Pampered Chef, and I'm just gonna put the garlic cloves down in here. And this also slices them thin. Now you can do one of two things if you want to. Once the liquid has boiled and cooled off, you can use a cheesecloth and strain this liquid just to have that flavor of the peppercorn, the salt, and the garlic. Or you can put it all in the jar, and it could be, you know, nice either way. But I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna strain it in a cheesecloth if I can find my cheesecloth. But if not, then I'll just pour the hot liquid over there. And so while this is still heating up, now is a good time to go ahead and put my onions in the jar. And I want to fill them up, but I don't want to fill them up too much. I want to leave a little bit of space because we want to make sure that liquid is over the onions, that the onions are completely submerged. So you can separate them a little bit, but these are really nice and thin. So I'm just going to put them down in the jar. I'm just going to pack them in there real good. I knew it would probably be too much, but like I said, I can use these for a salad, or if I wanted to, I can put them in a mason jar and make another jar. And these are great. Let me tell y'all what pickled red onions are good on. They're good on sandwiches. It's good on hamburgers. It's good on tacos. It is good on salads. I absolutely love onions, but I do love pickled red onions. So I'm just gonna stuff this down real good because, like I said, we want to make sure that the liquid is completely submerged in here. And so once the liquid heats up, I'm gonna give it a stir and let it start coming to a boil and simmer. Okay, so first let me give you an update. I found a larger jar, pretty much with the same latch, glass, and I was able to put all of the onions in there because I had 2 of those jars earlier, but I just said use one. And so now our liquid is starting to boil. But let me just real quick tell you about my crew here. And I'm talking about my family. Why is the cheesecloth empty and the plastic is not in the trash? They do that to me all the time and I have to call them back. But so what I'm going to do is I went ahead and washed out my glass bowl that we used to cut up the onions in. And I'm going to use this tea towel right here to just set over it and pour the hot liquid in there. It still serves as the same purpose. It'll still let that liquid go through while you know, catching the solid stuff like the garlic and the peppercorn. So I'm just waiting on this to boil, and then we'll let it simmer for a few minutes and turn it off and strain it and then put it in here. Now I did, since I'm using a bigger jar, I did put another cup of red wine vinegar and another cup of white vinegar in here, but I think the garlic slices, I think that was enough. So I didn't add any more of those, and I think the peppercorn was enough and the salt was enough. So just waiting on it to boil. Okay, so our liquid has simmered for about really 10 minutes now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and turn the stove off, and let me just show you what I have created. I have the bowl that I use to slice my onions, and I'm using this tea towel here, or flour sack towel, one of them. But to keep the to keep this from going in the bowl, I just put a rubber band around it. And so this will allow the liquid to go through while still catching the part. So I'm gonna try to do this with one hand, and yeah, because the handle's not hot. And then all we have to do, I'm gonna let this liquid cool off a little bit more, and then we will pour it over our red pickles. Okay, so you see how all the liquid goes through still, but it catches all of this. And so let me take this rubber band off. Okay, that's because the liquid is going back down and I don't want it to fall. Okay, so here's our liquid. So let me let this cool off just a little while longer, and it's just simply as pouring the liquid over the red onions, and I'll let the red onions sit out a little bit longer as they cool off a little bit more. And then all you have to do is put them in the refrigerator, and they will keep for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. But I know that between my salads and other things like that, because they're good for so much, that they'll be gone before then. So I let the liquid cool off a little bit more. So now all we have to do is just pour it over our onions, and just I'll let it cool, like I said, a little bit more, and we will put this in the refrigerator, and this will be so good. And look, y'all, we have just enough. But you want to make sure that your tomatoes are completely submerged. So this was a total of about 4 cups, because I did 2 red wine vinegar and 2 white. All we have to do is just lock the lid, and I'll let this cool off a little bit more, and that's it. Quick and easy pickled red onions, and they're going to be so good. Now you do maybe want to wait till, I would say, at least a few hours before you actually eat them, to give that liquid time to infuse into the onion, and also give that flavor a little bit more time to marry and infuse, and they will be so good on whatever you put it on. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you share this video with your family and your friends. And if you're not a subscriber, we will absolutely love to have you as a subscriber. So make sure you tap the bell so that you can receive notification each and every time we upload a new video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, bye bye.